Welcome. Thank you for being here for our final session of the Seven Mighty Moves book study. And we're going to get started right away because, as we have learned, these are jam-packed hours and we don't want to waste any second of it. So I'm going to move into my land acknowledgement. And as we do our land acknowledgements, we are going to invite you to pop in the chat and acknowledge the territories that you are coming to us from. I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional and unceded territory of the Cowichan peoples, on which I am honored and grateful to live, work, and learn. The photo I've chosen tonight is of the Cowichan Stalo, or the Cowichan River. It is, sorry, an important part of the origin and history of the Cowichan, as it is the highway system they used to come down from the mountains originally and began settling along the river. And all the way out to the Salish Sea and beyond. So it is very, very important to our people here. Katie.
Good evening. My name is Kate, and I am joining you this evening from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian and Smilax speaking peoples, where I am very grateful to live, work, learn, and play. This photo was from earlier today. We woke up to snow, and it was the first snowfall in my community, my home of Prince Rupert. So it was a bit of a surprise to see the white stuff, but it was absolutely beautiful earlier today. And fun fact, if you're in the community of Prince Rupert, you're actually on an island called Cain Island. And when you look across the harbor, you're actually looking at the mainland, which is known as the Tsimshian Peninsula. So this is one of our many boat docks that we have, and it was just lovely to be outside and enjoy the surrounding and the beautiful scenery.
All right,
So
here we are again, right, Katie?
we're here on our last session, and it's just been a wonderful opportunity to connect with you, Erica, and of course, a shout out to the lovely Una, who is joining us this evening, as well as Alicia from Dyslexia Canada. And we really have learned so much from each other, and we've dedicated Friday nights and our Sunday nights to sort of talk about upcoming sessions and hear about what we're doing in our own learning context. So it has yeah, just been a lovely experience for Erica and I, and we're really grateful that you're here joining us for our last session this evening.
I echo all of that.
And moving on, we are really excited to offer this book that I have with me, Dr. Molly Ness, and her Read It Alouds for All Learners. This is an amazing resource that I picked up as soon as it came off the shelf. And so one lucky participant will receive a copy of this book toward the end of our session.
Perfect. And following our usual shape of the session, we will discuss move 6, focus on meaningful fluency practice. We will send you to your breakout room for discussion number 1. We will come back, go through our takeaways, and then move right into move 7, improve comprehension by developing vocabulary and background knowledge, back into a breakout room, and then we'll come out of that and we will wrap things up from there, finalizing the night with the book draw.
And before we get started, we would like to take a moment and ground ourselves in the First People's principles of learning. So these are the 3 that we have been focusing on in our time together, and it really establishes group norms for talking about all things literacy. So learning involves patience and time, and we model that as lifelong learners. Learning is holistic, reflective, experiential, and relational. And we are all coming from different contexts, from different places in British Columbia with a wealth of knowledge that we can share and learn from each other. And learning involves recognizing the consequences of one's actions, including the consequence of inaction. So we are mindful that we are on a learning journey together, and we are really wanting what's best for our students, and in that process, learning and sharing along the way.
All right. And right into move number 6, which is focus on meaningful fluency practice. Katie and I had a really good discussion because we each saw ourselves in our classrooms with our students in part of this chapter or move. One of the things that excited me most was to see the information on partner reading paragraph shrinking, which I have used in my class with great results. And it definitely is something for an intermediate class. I know they recommend grades 2 to 8. And, there are not thousands of strategies for fluency, but this is one really good one. And I know, Katie, you talked about that it wouldn't fit for kindergarten. Primary is very different.
That type of strategy could look different in a kindergarten setting, especially when we're just getting these little humans in the beginning of September when they come in at age 4 and 5. They're not reading, but there's a lot of essential skills that need to be worked on before that. And we can have fun with exploring the voice and the sounds that we can make, which of course leads to choral reading, choral chanting, and fluent reading when they get into the later years. So we also talk about print fluency, and we talk about letter naming fluency. So there's just a lot to unpack in this particular move. So let's get on with it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so our discussion questions for Move 6 include, how does this move connect to our BC Language Arts curriculum? How does it specifically connect to your grade or role? It's always important for us, in those of us in BC, which I think most of us are, to connect back to our curriculum. Why is it important to ensure accuracy before working on rate or automaticity? What is the minimum percentile where we want to see a student's words correct per minute? Score to be reasonably certain that they are reading well and likely to be understanding what they read. Question 4 is, what is prosody, and are some components of prosody that Linda names? What are they? Question 5, Lindsay shares several strategies for building fluency in the classroom. What are some of these strategies? What have you tried in the past? What will you now incorporate into your program? And so I think we're going to give you about 10 to 12 minutes in the breakout rooms to have a thorough discussion of these questions. And our standard format has been come out of that, and we will discuss a little bit more. Go for it, Katie.
Oh, sorry. Just we would welcome everyone to share something in the chat that resonated with you from your breakout session. I know we had 2 groups, and we got through the first 3 questions.
That's about what we did too.
Yeah, we sort of elaborated on question number 3, which was really interesting conversation, being as though this is an area of learning that I still have a lot of work to do, especially coming from kindergarten. This wasn't something that I was particularly focused on, so I was really learning from those that spoke up in the group. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Christine puts the importance of fluency at any age, and we had a brief discussion about, even in intermediate, they need to work on fluency. That's part of what I struggle with when they come to me and they don't know how to read. So it's definitely an important aspect. Catherine puts accuracy before speed, and we also discussed that in our group, that accuracy is important. We don't want our young readers to pick up bad habits and put speed before the accurate reading. Anybody else feel free to pop something in the chat that resonated with you. We know that always takes a minute. We've tried to train ourselves just to pause for a moment and wait to see what shows up on the chat.
We talked about striving readers that may be still struggling with decoding of words, and if you're looking at words per minute, that could be an indicator that a lot of the working memory is going into decoding, and maybe we might have to go back and work on sound letter correspondence to develop stronger fluency skills. So accuracy is a stepping stone to fluency. Yeah, we can't jump over it.
All right, shall we move on to our takeaways?
All right, let's start. Takeaway number 1. There are 3 aspects of fluency. We have accuracy, rate, and automaticity, as well as prosody and expression. Accuracy is the first priority. and foundational skills and gaps must be addressed. So we can learn a lot from listening to children read, and we really need to make sure that those foundational skills are in place and that kids have them to automaticity, as that's going to help them with their reading comprehension.
Mhm. Key takeaway two, when students are not fluent, they don't have as much cognitive space to think about the meaning of what they are reading. Uh, as we know, students, they're using so much brain energy just trying to decode the words, and they cannot comprehend what they're reading. They just don't have the capacity for both, and we do need to consider that as we move through.
Key takeaway number three, while it may seem counterintuitive, a student's reading rate, measured by the words correct per minute, is an accurate and powerful indicator of overall reading competence, especially through its strong correlation with comprehension. And so there's sort of a recurring theme that we really need to ensure that kids have those foundational skills in reading, to develop those comprehension skills when they are reading text and pulling it off the page.
Takeaway four, research shows several effective strategies for building fluency in the classroom. Round robin reading and an overemphasis on silent reading are two practices to reconsider, as they are not supported by evidence. If you're not a fluent reader, silent reading and round robin reading will not necessarily help you become a fluent reader. There's no way to guarantee that they're reading the words correctly if it's silent. And then round robin reading, of course, you'll have reluctance on the part of students who can't read fluently. I did also find and read a great article by Jan Hasbrook on Reading Rockets about this, and I do encourage you to go have a look at it. It does speak to more of the evidence surrounding why we might want to reconsider these things.
All right, we're moving right into move number 7, improving comprehension by developing vocabulary and background knowledge. This was a huge area of learning for me several years ago, and it really changed my thinking on how I selected read alouds, rich read alouds for classroom exposure, especially at the K1 level when we are really focusing on language comprehension. And I know, Erica, we were talking about this last night, and we were talking about routines and how
Yeah.
important routines are in establishing the way in which we explicitly teach vocabulary and background
Mm-hmm.
knowledge.
And that routine really helps. With I find with my instruction to know that I have built in a vocabulary routine, even if it's as simple as a 3-column chart, just so we can go over and teach what the word is and how to say it, teach the meaning of it, and then have the students illustrate to show their understanding. Building that routine is imperative. They need to learn those, especially those tier 2 vocabulary words, and this is a great way to do it.
And one of the things that Lindsay Kemeny speaks about is the baseball study. And I've put a link, there's a hyperlink on this slide that will take you to this very short video that details this particular study that has been, excuse me, recreated numerous times. And it takes 4 different groups of learners. You can see that on the right: high reading ability with high knowledge of baseball. And then you have a high reading ability group with a low knowledge of baseball. And then you have 2 low reading ability groups, one that has a high knowledge of baseball and one that doesn't. And it really is quite phenomenal to hear the study and know that we expect the high reading ability group with high knowledge of baseball to read well and to understand and comprehend the text that they are reading. However, it was the low reading ability with high knowledge of baseball that did well, next to the high reading ability. And it emphasizes the importance of background knowledge and how, if our learners have that information already stored in their long-term memory, then any new information, including information they are reading, has something to stick to. And that really solidifies their learning and helps with lifting those words off the page. So if you are not familiar with the baseball study, highly encourage you to pick that one up off of YouTube.
Mhm. And I know you put the hyperlink in the slide, but for those that I mean, it's on the slide and we're on Zoom. If someone out there could pop that into the chat. And Anna, thank you for popping that article link into the chat as well for people. Appreciate that.
Move 7, discussion questions. Number 1, let's link it to BC curriculum and how it fits to your context. And number 2, how can we build vocabulary and background knowledge in the early years when students aren't yet independently reading rich texts? And I just mentioned earlier, read alouds are so important in the early years, but also read alouds are for everyone. How do you do this in your role, and what new ideas do you have from this chapter? Number 3, what are the 3 tiers of vocabulary and examples of each? Again, this was a big area of learning for me a few years ago when I started this journey. And which tier should we be focusing on for explicit instruction? And number 4, how does writing instruction connect to comprehension? This is so important. What ideas can you use to help support this with your students? All right, the importance of using everyone's knowledge, not just the teachers, to build background knowledge and to tap into your class and community. Absolutely. We want to be also mindful that there may be learners in your classroom that might not have that knowledge, and we need to make sure we fill the gap and that we do provide that knowledge and ensure that everyone is on a level playing field.
Kate, I was wondering, you had a resource that you mentioned about a tier two reading list. Could you put that in the chat? It was a book that
Oh,
you mentioned that had a list of words.
of tier 2 words. Yes,
Yeah.
that's Christopher Such, The Art and Science of Primary Reading,
Yeah.
literacy. Do I have the title right? Someone maybe will drop that in the chat. Um, and we used that book actually, didn't we?
That was our last prize.
That was our book draw. Yeah, thank you very much, Una, for popping that in.
And I see we've got power of read alouds for sure. Katie, you did mention that, and it was a piece of discussion, and then connections of writing. We had a good chat in my room about those connections. Excuse me, to writing.
And Christopher Such has a new book coming out. Oh, I didn't know that. We've got some good reads that we'll have to put on our list for the new year. That's very exciting.
Mhm. All right, so move 7, key takeaway 1, both word recognition and language comprehension strands of the reading rope are essential for skilled reading and for the goal of reading comprehension. One of our courses this summer was all about language comprehension, and it really made me think differently about it, and made me wonder if one of the reasons why many think science of reading is solely based on phonics is because that language comprehension piece is often overlooked. And yet if you look at the simple view of reading, it's imperative that we have language comprehension or we don't get proficient readers.
Takeaway number 2, reading comprehension is very complex, but vocabulary and background knowledge play a large role. And so don't cut back on science and social studies. So thank you again, Anna, for sharing earlier. And this drives the point that we know that not every child is coming in with the same knowledge. And we really want to make sure we level the playing field by providing that knowledge and by explicitly teaching content and to not push it off to the side.
Key takeaway 3, we should focus on explicit vocabulary instruction on tier 2 words. Tier 2 words are so important to both reading and writing. I'm learning that I cannot expect my students to write detailed sentences when those tier 2 words are missing from their lexicon. They don't learn tier 2 words unless they are explicitly taught. And then they can write those more interesting detailed sentences by including some of those words.
And let me tell you, early primary, those little ones, they can use those big words like a boss. And so sometimes I think we often underestimate their ability, and they are pretty keen to be using some of those big words. It's pretty exciting. Takeaway number 4, some strategy instruction can be helpful, and we want students to use strategies flexibly in context. Try think aloud or thinking aloud to model strategies and give students authentic opportunities to use them when reading in all subject areas. And so this was a big shift for me when I went through the process of choosing a read aloud. And so instead of choosing a book that perhaps was shorter or of simple text, I really wanted to ensure that the books I was choosing would provide not only really great vocabulary that I could explicitly teach, but I also wanted to have books that could expand knowledge, especially in science and social studies. And so we need to be cautious when we're using any kind of resource that encourages teaching comprehension as an individual set of skills. And instead, we can choose and focus our time and attention on quality, rich literature, and then model the types of strategies we might use through thinking aloud demonstrations to our kids. I think that's really crucial.
And key takeaway 5, reading multiple texts on the same topic helps to build vocabulary and background knowledge. Writing about these texts can help improve both writing and reading comprehension. Start building your text sets, people. They are going to be helpful. And we need to remember too that a text can be a variety of things, from posters to books to articles. There's lots of modern ways to use various things, even even text, like texting, and try to do things that kids can use, things that kids connect to. There's memes, all kind, obviously appropriate, things that we can use to tap into on the same topic. So
Yeah, it also makes for a really rich learning experience as well, right?
All right, and here we are. We are at the conclusion, which was super short. And we had put a lot of thought into what pieces of the conclusion were we going to use, and we kind of veered off from what happened with the introduction. But we thought that it would be very important to end or start the conclusion with a lovely quote from the author.
Science is always evolving. Rethinking what we do in our classrooms is an ongoing process. It enables us to refine and improve our techniques constantly as we implement research in the best ways we can. And I think that's why it's so lovely that Erica, you and I are able to work with Dyslexia Canada. Thank you again. And providing opportunities for BC educators to come together so we can learn and grow together in our profession. So we thought we'd have some fun in our final moments before we say goodbye, but we really would love to hear from you. This is our first mentee. Erica, do you want to
Yeah,
have the honor?
so folks, hopefully you have a device ready to tap into our Menti. This one, you are going to prioritize the moves in your instruction. And when you join the Menti, you'll be able to start dragging your first item up. And then from there, if you just touch on each item, you can move them up and move them around, use the arrows that should appear to the right of each of these, and rank them for yourself. And we'll see where everyone lands.
I'm going to do it too.
And just
Me
make
too.
sure to hit submit when you're happy
That's
with where
right.
they are.
Yes.
Okay, right.
Thank you, Una.
I learned that one the hard way.
Ooh, look at that. Improving comprehension by developing vocabulary and background knowledge. Okay. Teaching phonics explicitly and systematically in second place. Teaching phonemic awareness with intention. Well, that's pretty neat. Oh, few
Always
more.
amazing how quickly it can change as people think about these and rank them. It's
And it's hard to really think. I mean, hopefully this encourages us to be intentional in our learning, in our growth for professional development, and to really be mindful that there's always areas that we can grow in our profession. We need to give ourselves some grace as well. It's not easy to have some of these conversations and to shift our practice, and it does take time.
Kathy has just put in that I think it speaks to where we are on our journey, and I agree with that. And we rank these according to what is important in our own grade and role. What I am ranking in grade 4 may not be the same as someone who's in primary. So that's also interesting to think about how the results come out. All right.
So we wanted to just touch base on a few things that are happening in British Columbia. So we'll see if we can wrap this up in the next few minutes. We did want to remind everyone that back in April, there was a press release from the Premier, David Eby, and we will be implementing universal screening in schools beginning in September 2025. So we're really excited about this announcement. You can check out the press release on Dyslexia Canada's website. We've got the hyperlink there. And we found this document on our own BC Ministry of Education and Childcare that details what to expect in the months to come. So when we talk about putting the screening practices in place, there's a lot of front loading that needs to happen. I'd encourage you to look at this document and maybe engage in conversation with colleagues and see where your district is in this process. We know that districts are going to be very soon in the process of applying for grants. There is targeted funding for this process for professional development and training, and there should be good conversation happening in your district. Want to add to that, Erica?
No, you spoke very well. There's nothing more to add. I'm just conscious of the time.
Yes.
So I think we're just going to move right into the next Mentimeter, please, Una. So once again, get your devices ready. And this one, you are going to, when you get into the Menti, there will be a little black dot, and you're going to move it and place it somewhere on the gray arrow so that it's above the writing, somewhere where you think you are on this continuum, I suppose.
And look at that, little dot just pops right up. And thanks, Lisa. I see you popped that document in the chat. This looks encouraging. And hopefully in the very near future, we'll get more information from the ministry. We do have a new minister who has been assigned education and childcare. So we're looking forward to learning more about Honorable Lisa Bear. And I hope I've got her name correct. And I would imagine more information will be coming through your district and your school sites in the next few weeks.
Thank you. These results are very encouraging, aren't they, Katie?
Yeah.
That's great. And Lisa, thank you for popping into the chat that you loved her conclusion where she talked about her son, because of course at the center of all this is children, our students, our little human beings, and we can't forget that. And if it's not our own personal children, it is the ones we see in the classroom, who I always refer to as my kids. I have lots of kids every year. They're my kids, and we want to do right by them. And we felt that this quote was very fitting to sort of end on. We make such a difference in the lives of our students every single day. Using the science of reading to provide them with effective instruction is the greatest gift we can give them. And Katie, is this one you?
Yeah, tonight's prize is
Perfect.
Read Alouds for All Learners. And I was mentioning in our group that Dr. Molly Ness has another book coming out as well. And I'm looking forward to that one, as well as Christopher Such's book. That'll be very exciting. Una, who do we have?
Congratulations, Angela, Angela Peters. You are the
Excellent.
lucky winner. So please send us an email to info@dyslexiacanada.org with your mailing address, and we will get that book to you. And I just want to jump in. I snuck a slide in here that Kate and
I
Erica
see
hopefully
that.
didn't notice. I just wanted to make sure we I know it's late and feel free to drop off. I know everybody's very busy, but I wanted to just make sure that we really all just took a moment and thanked Kate and Erica for their incredible work leading us through this book. It is something where, I've put Patricia Daguerre is the Chief Commissioner of the Ontario Human Rights Commission, and she says quite often, knowledge is power, but only if it's shared. And I am so appreciative of Kate and Erica for really spending so much time digging into this book and thinking about how to build out, an engaging and supportive learning environments for all of us, recognizing that all of this is in the service and in the pursuit of supporting strong outcomes for our students. So a very big thank you to them, and obviously a very big thank you to you to you all for joining, but I wanted to make sure we gave them a shout out.
Thank you, Una.
Thank you so much, Una.
And Heitsepka.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a delight to connect and to meet some of you from around the province. And we're, again, just delighted to engage in conversation. We don't mind talking shop. It's just been a really wonderful experience. So we'd love to end with a quote from the lovely Anita Archer. And this is how Anita Archer ended her foreword in Seven Mighty Moves. Read on, teach on,
And celebrate.
and celebrate. So thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.